everybody, and welcome to DC Fine Art. Today I'm going to show you how I created neon lights without using neon colors in acrylic paints. So yes, you can still get that look of a neon light and not have to have those colors. So I will be doing a speed painting, just showing you how I created this, so that way maybe if you were to want a neon light, you could do the same thing, and you can do it in any color. It doesn't matter if mine's red, you can do it in blue, you could do it in green. It's just your colors and values. So I will be showing you that in this video. Remember to please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and also check out my Patreon too. I have other videos on my Patreon that are a lot longer, a lot slower, and I do go over different mediums such as color pencil, acrylic painting, and so much more. So anyways, go check that out. Link is in the description below, and please hit the like, and let's go ahead and get this video started. So the first thing I'm going to do is outline each and every one of the bricks. Now, I'm not going to go all the way to the lettering. I'm actually going to go a little bit of distance around the lettering, so pretty close, but not all the way. I am using a Pyro Red, which is a really bright red. Now, if you do not have Pyro Red, I would suggest just taking a red and mixing it in with some yellow until you get a little bit more of a brighter red. So I'm going to do this all the way around the painting. I'm not going to actually go too close to the lettering on the closeness of it, because I will change up the red the closer I get to the lettering. But I am wrapping this around the canvas as I'm going. So we're going to go ahead and jump on over to mixing it up with just the this red here is the primary red, and I usually like using it because it's a little bit lighter of a red. It's almost like it's primary red should be just a regular red, but in the Liquitex Basics, it almost looks like it has a pinkish kind of color to it. So I'm using that to go on the interior outline of the bricks toward the lettering. So there I am, just going in and around the lettering with the bricks using the primary red. Getting those in there, and then we're going to jump on over, and now I'm going to take some of my red here, just like a darker red, and I'm going to mix it in with my black. Now that will make it more of a purpley kind of reddish kind of color. It's actually going to be darker, and so I'm going to use that to go all the way around the outside of the canvas. I'm going to mix some more of it up, and now I'm going to go ahead and start using this darker red along the outside part. I'm not going to get this really close to the lettering because I'm going to leave the internal like closer to the lettering. Those bricks, they're going to be a little bit brighter red. So you're basically going from dark on the outside to a lighter red as you go in. Now, the other thing too, I just want to let you guys know, is that with the Liquitex Basics, it is a little bit transparent. So when you're using it, it forces you to have to layer. So even though I'm putting down this first layer of the darker bricks, I will have to go back through and add another layer to it. So this is only just the first layer. But you definitely want to go dark to light from the outside edges of the canvas, a darker red, and then as you go in, it's going to end up getting lighter. But this is the dark area first. Once you've got all your darker reds in, you will have to go back over it like I said. So when going back over it, I can also see where I want to darken it up maybe just a little bit more. So here I am going back over all the outside edges with a darker toned red, and then I will continue that up and around on the bricks. So I will end up going over the corners of the bricks on the edges of the canvas right in here by adding in more of my darks. And this does definitely make it look darker, especially whenever you're adding another layer to it. It makes it more opaque. So going in and around the edges with the dark red. Now, if you're wondering what this plays a part in making neon lights or anything neon, that definitely helps it out. You have the glow in the center, and as you move outward, it's going to get darker. The further away from the light, it gets darker. That's just how lights work. So as long as you have those color transitions from light on the inside, and then as you move outward going really dark, it's definitely going to make the inside part where it's bright and you got those brighter colors, it's going to stand out a whole lot more. So now I'm going to start working on some of these internal bricks here. I'm going to end up going to not a pyrrole red, that was like my brightest red, and I used that for the outside line of the bricks. I'm going to go to a brighter red, or I shouldn't say brighter red, but I'm going to go to a red that's not as bright as the pyrrole red, but it is still pretty bright. But definitely don't want to go with the same color as the outline of the bricks, because then your outlines may disappear with that color. So they definitely have to be a different shade of color. Now, you'll also notice that there's a big difference between the bright red that I'm putting in and the dark red, and it doesn't really transition into each other very smoothly. Now, I will end up going back and working on that by putting a tone of red that's in between the dark and in between the bright, and I'll put that in and blend it with a blending brush. So that way, and it'll be a small little mop brush, but I'll be able to blend that out and make it a little bit smoother of a transition between the bright red and the dark red. So now that I got the bright red in there, I will have to go over it a second time. It will need another layer. But before I do that, I'm definitely going to be adding in some of this mid-tone red. It's kind of in between the bright red and the dark red. And I'm going to add that in between and just kind of blend it out just a little bit. So that's what you're seeing me do right there. But also you can notice too, the letters are starting to show up a little bit better, aren't they? They're starting to look brighter. Why? Because we have a white right now, which is really bright, and then we got the dark around it. And also on second note, and always keep this in mind too, when you work with darker colors or you put darker colors in, you're basically pushing that further back. And whenever you work with light colors, such as like if I had a really bright or light pink, that's going to end up being lighter than those darks. So it's going to bring it forward. So now I'm going to start mixing in some pinks. So I took my red, and this is my primary red, and I'm mixing it in with my white. So I'm not mixing it up to make a really bright pink, but more of a mid-tone type of pink. And I'm going to end up putting this in the center closest around where the light would be, where the white is. It's hard to get messed up whenever I say white and light, but it's basically the same thing. So I'm putting some pinks in here. Now also, I am working off of a reference photo. So a reference photo in neon lights, if you have like a reference photo of neon lights, you can definitely look at that reference photo and find where those pinks are. Usually the pinks in this one here was with any place that it had a lot of the light shining on it, that it literally turned pink. So, and the light itself kind of had a pinkish glow. So I'm just sticking those pinks in there. And also too, I will have to go back over it and add a second layer to those pinks. So don't think that you just, at this point, you didn't have to put in another layer. I did have to put in another layer once it dried because it almost went a little bit too translucent. So I had to go back in, add a second layer of the pink in the same area before it was done. So now we're moving on to the next phase, which is basically doing touch-ups. I'm actually going in and adding in some of these like I'm mixing up a really light pink, and this will be going over the letters. And also with this, I went back over it again a second time because I definitely needed to adjust some of these letterings because I had went over it a little bit with some of the red. So here was my chance to correct that and get that all smoothed out and even by using a really light pink that I mixed with my primary red and my white. So going over each and every letter, smoothing those out. And then eventually once that dries, I will have to do it again. This is when it really starts to come together and you've got that neon glow that comes off of these letters. All right, so now we're moving on to the last stage, which I got another pink mixed in here, and that's just using my primary red or a different one of my other reds, and then mix it in with my white. And as you can see, it's a little bit darker of a pink. And I'm going to come through here and I'm going to start putting in some of these internal lines here for the bricks. Now, I know I went in with my primary red, but I'm actually going to go in and put some of this pink, this darker pink in here for some of the outline of the bricks closest to the light only. So getting those all lined in just where it would be glowing the brightest. That makes it look like it's illuminating, like those lights are actually bouncing off of the bricks, the mortar and the bricks. Now the last thing that I did is that I mixed up a darker color of my red using my red and my black mixture. I actually added a whole bunch more water to it to make it a little bit more liquidy, so that way I can kind of glaze in and around the outside edges, because I needed to tone those red internal lines that I had for the bright red for the outside of the brick, should I say. They were super bright around the outside edges. They needed to be toned down. So I'm just adding a darker glaze of red over the top of those. And then I'm taking it in and around the edges of the canvas. That way it darkens it a whole lot more on the outside edges. And it also helps out in making the inside, where it's bright with that lettering, pop a whole lot more. And here is my final piece with the neon colored lights, not using neon colored paints whatsoever. Just remember, it's all about your contrast, where your darks go and where your lights go. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Please remember to click the like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye, you guys.